Peter Schiff Show.
This is Peter Schiff. I'm speaking now with Emily Tish Sussman, who is the founding director of the Young Democrats of America.
Yes.
How young do you have to be a young Democrat?
We go up through age 36, but I also want to point out the Young Democrats of America have been around for 80 years. So I'm actually not the founding. I think I may have aged out if I was the founding executive director.
All right. Yeah. In fact, I think my father was a young Republican at one time.
All right.
Or at least he went to their convention. But
getting young people involved at an early age, I'm in favor of.
Yeah, and look, we get a lot of young people that listen to this show, and I think young people really need to have a second look at their commitment to the Democratic Party. Not that I'm a big Republican, I'm more of a libertarian myself, but let me talk to you about a few things that I think should be issues for young people.
Sure.
One is education and college, and it's my thesis that the government has really done a lot of harm to people, students, in order to get their votes. What they do is they promise aid, guaranteed loans. They help students go into debt to bid up college tuitions. And so college used to be very inexpensive. It was, people, either if you didn't have the money, you can have a summer job, you work your way through college. Nobody used to take out a loan to go to college because it was very inexpensive. But the government came in, and all this student aid jacks up the price of college. If the government wasn't involved, if they weren't guaranteeing student loans and making loans available, tuitions would be a lot lower and nobody would need a loan. So it's an example of the government basically breaks your leg and then hands you a crutch and says, well, without me, you wouldn't walk. You couldn't walk. Now, all the students are voting for Democrats who promised more aid to go to college, but the only reason college is so expensive is because of the aid.
So I would actually argue the reason college is so expensive is for a different reason. I would argue that the loans are not actually propping it up, but actually allowing people to go to college.
Well,
we look at what's gotten people into college in the past. The GI Bill was getting a lot of people into college. I know, we're talking greatest generation here. We're going a little bit farther back. But also, a lot of the colleges had been supported by state aid in the past. That has increased over the last couple of years as the state budgets have gone down. One of the places they're pulling money out the fastest is the state universities.
Right, but let me ask you a basic question. So let's say a college is charging $20,000 tuition, and you can't get a loan. What do you think the college would do in order to get a customer? If the customers can't afford the price, what is the college going to do?
Well, I can tell you the student is definitely not going to borrow it from their parents, which is what Mitt Romney had said.
Well, because if you're a business and you have a product that's too expensive for your customers, you have to figure out how to lower your prices so that you can sell your product. And if students couldn't borrow all this money, and the only reason they can borrow it is because the government guarantees the loan, otherwise they can never get it, colleges would have to lower their tuitions. They'd have no choice. Otherwise, they'd go out of business. The only reason they don't have to lower prices is because the government keeps funneling money to students, and they use the money to bid up tuitions. It's supply and demand. If you increase demand for college with money, price is going to go up.
Well, there is no question that we do believe that every American should have the same opportunity to be able to go to college. There is no question about that. We do not believe that the circumstances that you were born in should dictate whether or not you have that opportunity.
Well, what about somebody doesn't have a good aptitude for college? I mean, there are a lot of people that are not that bright. They don't do that well in high school. Why should they go to college? I mean, why should they waste 4 or 5 years? Why don't they just go and train to learn a skill or a trade that they can actually earn a living at?
Oh, I would absolutely support that. I just think that every American should have the opportunity to go to college. And if there's a better program for them, they should absolutely be doing that.
But if they could benefit, we don't think that, hey, let's say somebody obviously doesn't have the intellect for college. We shouldn't send them there anyway.
No, but I would hope the college would also have a part in that, in screening who they're taking.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you, what are the issues for young people is employment and jobs.
Yeah.
And the biggest barrier to young people getting jobs is the government. Because most young people, right, they don't have a lot of skills because they're young. They haven't had a chance to acquire those skills. And
we like to phrase it as the beginning of their careers.
Right.
Yes.
Yes, and I employ a lot of people. And I would employ a lot more people if it wasn't for the government. But in order for me to hire somebody, they have to be able to give me value, more value than what I pay them. I got to make a profit on the deal. And young people often don't have a lot of skills, and so I have to train them a lot on the job. But the government mandates that I pay everybody a minimum wage and I give certain benefits. And as a result, a lot of jobs that I might be able to create, I'm barred from doing it. And a lot of young people who might have got very valuable training and might have been able to earn a lot of money, they never get that opportunity because the government won't let me hire them.
So I would actually, say that even though young people are coming in with maybe fewer skills, they're also, because they're at the beginning of their careers, working a heck of a lot harder. They're going to be coming in because they want to learn from you. They do want to learn. They want to be trained.
Well, what if there's a young person and they want to work for me, and I've determined that I can afford to pay them $5 an hour while I train them, and they want the job, and the government says, no, you can't. That job is illegal because it's below the minimum wage. Would you be in favor of getting rid of the minimum wage so I can hire that person?
Have you considered paid internships?
Well, it's the same thing. You're still subject to the minimum wage. You know what's actually happening now is people end up working for free, because what happens is they go and pay to go to school, right? And they borrow money to go to college, and then they have a free internship. So I can hire a student for nothing and get him course credit, but I can't let him work as an intern or pay him below the minimum wage.
Right. I know you told me that you want young people coming in with skills. They just got their skills in their internship.
Would you be in favor of getting rid of the minimum wage so that I can hire more people and other people can hire more people?
We would love to train those students through either a free, unpaid internship, paid internship, and they can come to work for you with skills.
But what about, let me give you a different topic.
Yeah.
Why are young people, why don't the young Democrats come out against Social Security? I mean, think about this. Social Security is a tax on young poor people. The money goes to old rich people, right? The people collecting Social Security are much wealthier, right? You talk about the 1%, let's go after the rich. What about the rich people collecting Social Security, even upper middle class people living in fully paid for homes, using their Social Security money to pay the dues at their country club? Why don't you call for getting rid of Social Security so you can eliminate the 15% payroll tax that hits the hardest young, poorer people? It's a flat tax, and it hits the young people and the poor people the hardest. Why don't you guys come out for generational equity and oppose Social Security and Medicare?
Yeah, so I mean, we want to be supporting the poor old people.
But what about the rich old people?
The rich old people, we don't hate on them, but we also want to be supporting the poor old people.
Right, but would you be in favor of means testing Social Security?
This is all they can do. With those poor old people, we don't want to be throwing our grandparents out on the street.
But what about
this may be all that they have.
What about Paul Ryan's mother, who looks pretty healthy? She's playing tennis once a week. Should she get Social Security and Medicare so she can play tennis?
Yeah, that Ryan family, they work out. They are in great shape.
But do you think we should be taking money? Do you think the government should be taking money from young, poor people and giving it to older, wealthy people?
I mean, this is part of the American system that we have, that we pay into it, and it's there for us when we retire.
No, but the government already blew the money.
So even though we're restarting our careers right now, we are paying into it now.
But you're not paying into anything. You're getting scammed. It's a Ponzi scheme. The money's gone. My question to you is, do you think the government should take money away from young, poor people? A lot of minorities don't even live long enough to collect Social Security. It's almost a tax on minorities to give it to old white people.
So are we now saying that we are in favor of well-care visits and health care to make sure that people are living longer?
My question to you is, do you think it's a good idea for the government to take money away from younger, poor people and minorities and give the money to rich white people?
I think this is a very extreme phrasing. I think that young people are paying into a system that we then believe will be there for us.
Do you actually believe that?
Yes.
You believe in Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny and all these things? Where's the money going to come from? The government. How's the government going to give you the money? Who are they going to tax to pay you? You're at the end of the chain ladder.
The millennial generation that we're looking at now is actually going to be larger than the baby boomers.
No.
We're going to be the largest generation that we've ever had in America.
Yeah. So who's gonna support you? There's nobody there. Meanwhile,
wait. So we're assuming that no one has children after that.
But let's say somebody paid $10,000 into Social Security, and they're going to collect $100,000. Is that fair?
Look, I mean, this is part of. I say it again. This is part of the American system that we have.
No,
it's
part of the lousy system that we got now.
And we know that it will be there for us when we retire.
But you don't pay into anything. It's an income tax. Social Security taxes are just like income taxes, except they're very regressive because it's a flat tax, and once you make above a certain amount of money, you don't have to pay it anymore. So it's a very regressive flat rate income tax that hits the poor, and they take the money and they give it to wealthy people who don't even have to work. They're retired. They're playing golf. They're playing tennis, and they use that.
They don't have to work. Also, some of them are like 90 and
I'm not talking about those. I'm not talking about the people who are broke in retirement homes.
They get it just the same, and I would argue there are more of them out there than the country club tennis
the other
playing.
Thing, why is it young people want jobs, right?
Absolutely.
Now, if you want a job, do you want to work for a poor person or a rich person?
What?
Do you want to work for a poor person who can barely pay you, or do you want to work for a rich person where you know your check's not going to bounce?
I mean, I definitely want to work for a good employer in a stable economy.
Right, where the employer has to have the wealth and the capital to pay you and hire you.
Sure.
Right. So why you don't want to support Democratic policies that want to punish businessmen, entrepreneurs with taxes and regulations that make it more expensive. You know what the riskiest thing to do in America right now is?
What?
Hire somebody. Right? Because the minute you hire somebody, you could be sued 1,000,000 times. The employees can sue you. The government can sue you. They can fine you. I talk to a lot of businessmen, and they say they want my advice. I say, don't hire anybody. That's the best advice I can give you. Now, why am I giving that advice? Because of the government. So if you want more jobs for young Democrats, young Republicans, you want the government off my back and off businessmen's back so we can hire young people, we can train young people, we can provide services, produce products that everybody can consume. But the biggest impediment to the success of the young is the government. And the bigger the government, the bigger the impediment. So what you ought to do is rethink young Democrats. They ought to become maybe young Republicans or young Libertarians. But if you're going to continue to be young Democrats, then you're never going to have any opportunity. The Democrats want to keep you impoverished, so you'll keep voting for them because they promise to bail you out with a handout. They don't want you to succeed because then you'll become a Republican.
I will definitely keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll consider it.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Okay. Sorry, it's a few minutes late. Thank you.
All right.
Nice to meet you.
Same here.